She thought he'd forgotten her until the Billionaire CEO called her name at the airport. The weight of ordinary days, Natalie Brooks pressed her palm against the cold glass window of Riverside Books, watching the October rain blur the streetlights into watercolor smudges. It was nearly closing time, and the small independent bookstore where she worked had been quiet all evening. At 29, she had learned to appreciate quiet. It meant no complaints, no complications, just the comforting smell of old pages and the soft jazz playing from the ancient radio behind the counter. Her phone buzzed with a text from Mrs. Chen, her neighbor who watched 6-year-old Lily after school. "Lily ate dinner. She's asking when you'll be home. Don't worry, take your time." Natalie smiled despite the exhaustion pulling at her bones. Mrs. Chen was a blessing she could never repay, but guilt still gnawed at her. Another late night, another bedtime story missed. She locked up the store at 9:30, pulling her thin jacket tighter against the October chill. The rain had softened to a drizzle, creating halos around the street lamps. Central Station was 3 blocks away, and the last train to her neighborhood left at 10:15. She walked quickly, her worn sneakers splashing through puddles. The station buzzed with travelers rushing to catch their connections. Natalie bought her ticket from the automated machine and headed toward Platform 7. She was checking her phone, mentally calculating if she had enough for Lily's school supplies this month, when she collided with someone. "I'm so sorry, I wasn't looking," she stammered, stepping back. "Natalie!" The voice froze her completely. She looked up slowly, heart hammering against her ribs. 10 years fell away in an instant. Adrian Westwood stood before her, taller than she remembered, wearing an expensive charcoal coat and carrying a leather briefcase. His dark hair was styled professionally now, streaked with just a hint of gray at the temples. But those eyes, deep brown and intense, were exactly the same. "Adrian?" she breathed, unable to form any other words. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other, the chaos of the station fading into white noise around them. Natalie's mind raced backward through time to late-night study sessions in the university library, to stolen kisses beneath the oak tree by the arts building, to the night he told her his parents were forcing him to study abroad, and he couldn't say no. "I can't believe it's you," Adrian said softly, his voice carrying a tremor she'd never heard before. "After all these years, Natalie, you look tired," she offered with a weak smile, suddenly aware of her faded jeans and the coffee stain on her sleeve. "Beautiful," he finished. "You look beautiful." Natalie felt heat rise to her cheeks. She glanced at the departure board. "I should catch my train." "Wait, please." Adrian reached out but didn't touch her. "Can we talk? Just for a few minutes?" Every instinct told her to run. This man had left her a decade ago with nothing but a hastily written letter and promises he never kept. She had cried for months, rebuilt herself slowly, and then Lily came along and changed everything. Her life now was small but stable, and Adrian Westwood was a storm she couldn't afford, but something in his eyes made her pause. A deep sadness, maybe, or regret. 5 minutes, she agreed quietly. They moved to a bench near the platform, sitting with careful space between them. The rain had picked up again, drumming against the station's glass roof. "How have you been?" Adrian asked, then immediately shook his head. "That's such an inadequate question for 10 years. Natalie studied her hands. "I work at a bookstore. I have a daughter, Lily. She's 6. We live in a small apartment near Riverside. It's not much, but it's ours." She watched his expression shift through surprise, curiosity, and something that looked like longing. "A daughter," he repeated softly. "That's wonderful, Natalie. Really." "What about you?" she asked, though she already knew fragments from social media and mutual acquaintances. "I heard you became an architect." Adrian nodded. "I came back, too. Years after I left. Finished my degree here. Started my own firm. We design sustainable housing projects mostly. It's fulfilling work." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "I looked for you. When I got back, I went to your old apartment. Called your old number. Nothing worked. I moved," Natalie said simply. I had to. Because of me? She met his eyes. Because I couldn't stay in places that reminded me of you. The honesty hung between them like a bridge neither knew how to cross. Adrian leaned forward, elbows on his knees. I wrote you letters, he said quietly. Dozens of them. Every week for the first year, I sent them to your old address. Natalie's breath caught. I never got them. The landlord probably threw them away after I left. I should have tried harder. I should have fought my parents, fought the distance, fought everything. His voice cracked slightly. Leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life, Natalie. I've spent 10 years trying to fill a space that nothing else fits into. Tears pricked Natalie's eyes, but she blinked them back. You can't just say these things, Adrian. You don't know what my life has been like. You don't know how hard I had to work to stop hurting. You're right. I don't know. He turned to face her fully. But I want to. If you'll let me. The announcement. For her train echoed through the station. Natalie stood quickly, shouldering her bag. I have to go. Lily's waiting. Adrian stood too, pulling out his wallet and extracting a business card. Please, my number's on here. If you ever want to talk, or if you need anything, call me, even if it's just to tell me to leave you alone forever. Natalie took the card, staring at the embossed lettering. Adrian Westwood, founder and principal architect, Green Space Design. She slipped it into her pocket. I can't promise anything, she said. I'm not asking for promises, Adrian replied gently. Just a chance to be in your life again, in whatever way you're comfortable with. She nodded once and turned toward the platform. But before she could take more than a few steps, Adrian called out, Natalie? She looked back. I never stopped loving you. Not once in 10 years. The words hit her like a physical force. She opened her mouth to respond, but nothing came out. Instead, she simply held his gaze for one long, breathless moment, then turned and walked to her train. As she settled into her seat and watched the platform slide away, Natalie pulled out Adrian's card again. Her phone sat heavy in her other hand. She thought about Lily waiting at home, about the bills stacked on her kitchen counter, about the careful, controlled life she'd built from nothing. Then she thought about Adrian's eyes, the way he'd said he never stopped loving her, and the decade of silence between them that maybe, just maybe, could finally be broken. She saved his number in her phone and stared at the screen for the entire ride home. By the time she reached her stop, she had typed and deleted a message 7 times. Finally, she sent just 3 words. Tomorrow, coffee, 2 p.m. His response came before she even stood up. I'll be there. Natalie walked home through the rain, feeling something she hadn't felt in 10 years. Not quite hope, not yet, but something close to it. Something that felt like the first page of a story she'd thought was finished. Above her, the clouds parted just enough to let through a sliver of moonlight. And for the first time in a very long time, Natalie Brooks allowed herself to wonder if second chances were real. The coffee shop confession. The small cafe on Maple Street smelled of cinnamon and espresso. Natalie arrived 10 minutes early, her hands trembling slightly as she ordered a chamomile tea. She'd changed clothes 3 times that morning finally, settling on a simple blue sweater and jeans. Nothing too fancy, nothing that screamed she was trying too hard. Adrian was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups in front of him. He stood when he saw her, a nervous smile crossing his face. I didn't know what you'd want, so I got you an herbal tea, he said. You always preferred that over coffee. You remembered, Natalie said softly, sliding into the seat across from him. I remember everything, Adrian replied. They talked for hours. Adrian told her about his years abroad, studying architecture in Copenhagen while feeling hollow inside. He described returning home to find her gone, the desperate searches, the nights spent driving past places they used to visit together. He'd thrown himself into his work, building a successful firm but never building a life that felt complete. Natalie shared her story too. The difficult months after he left, discovering she was pregnant with Lily just as she'd started to move forward with someone new. That relationship had crumbled quickly under the weight of responsibility Tyler wasn't ready for. She'd raised Lily alone, working multiple jobs, accepting help from neighbors like Mrs. Chen, finding strength she never knew she possessed. "I'd like to meet her," Adrian said carefully. "Lily, only if you're comfortable with that." Natalie studied his face, searching for any sign of obligation or pity. She found only genuine interest. "She's the best part of me," Natalie said. "But I need to protect her. I can't have people walking in and out of her life." "I understand, and I'm not asking to rush anything. But Natalie, I meant what I said last night. I want to be part of your life again, in whatever way you'll allow." Something in his sincerity broke through her final wall. "Okay, but we take this slowly." Meeting Lily 2 weeks later, Adrian met Lily at the park near Natalie's apartment. The little girl had her mother's eyes and a smile that could light up the darkest room. She approached Adrian with innocent curiosity, clutching her favorite stuffed rabbit. "Are you Mommy's friend?" Lily asked directly. "I am," Adrian said, kneeling to her level. "I'm Adrian. Your mom and I knew each other a long time ago. Did you go to her school?" "We did. We studied together and spent lots of time in the library." Lily's nose wrinkled. "Libraries are boring," Adrian laughed, a genuine sound that made Natalie's heart flutter. "What if I told you libraries have magical books that can take you anywhere in the world?" Lily's eyes widened. "Really?" "Really. Maybe sometime we could go together and find the most magical ones." From that day forward, Adrian became a fixture in their lives. He showed up to Lily's school play with flowers. He fixed the leaky faucet in Natalie's apartment. He brought books for Lily and always remembered to ask about her day. But more than that, he showed Natalie a patience and dedication she'd never experienced before. The shadow returns. Everything was beginning to feel like a dream come true until Tyler showed up. Natalie was closing the bookstore one evening when she saw him leaning against the lamppost across the street. Tyler Morrison looked thinner than she remembered, his eyes harder. When she locked the door, he crossed the street. "Natalie, long time." Her stomach dropped. "What are you doing here, Tyler? I heard you've been spending time with some rich architect," he said, his tone casual but threatening. "Thought I should remind you that Lily's my daughter. Maybe I should be getting some of that money you're probably collecting." "You signed away your rights," Natalie said, voice shaking despite her attempt at strength. "You wanted nothing to do with her. People change. Courts change their minds. I could make things very difficult for you." He stepped closer. "Unless we come to an arrangement." Before Natalie could respond, Adrian's voice cut through the tension. "Is there a problem here?" Adrian approached from the parking lot, his expression calm, but his eyes sharp. He positioned himself slightly in front of Natalie. Tyler sneered. "So this is the new boyfriend, playing daddy to my kid?" "I'm someone who cares about Natalie and Lily's well-being," Adrian said evenly. "And I'm someone who knows exactly what extortion looks like." "Big words for—" "I'm also someone with excellent lawyers," Adrian interrupted, "who would be very interested in your threats. Shall we test which one of us has more to lose?" The two men stared at each other for a long moment. Finally, Tyler stepped back. "This isn't over," he muttered. "Actually, it is," Adrian said. He pulled out his phone. "I've been recording this entire conversation. If you come near Natalie or Lily again, I'll ensure every court in the state knows about your attempted blackmail. Walk away now and we'll pretend this never happened." Tyler's face flushed with anger, but he had no cards left to play. He turned and disappeared into the night. Natalie's legs nearly gave out. Adrian caught her arm, steadying her. "He's gone," Adrian said softly. "And he won't come back. I promise." Legal protection. True to his word, Adrian hired a family attorney who filed a restraining order against Tyler. The process was swift and thorough. Tyler, facing potential criminal charges for blackmail, signed paperwork permanently relinquishing any claim to Lily. He left the city shortly after, and Natalie finally felt safe. Through it all, Adrian never asked for recognition or gratitude. He simply showed up, steady and sure, proving through actions that he meant every word he'd said. The proposal 6 months after their reunion Adrian asked Natalie to meet him at Riverside Books after closing time. She arrived to find the entire store lit with string lights, casting a warm glow over the stacks of books. Soft music played from somewhere she couldn't see. Adrian stood in the center, near the poetry section where they'd first met as college students browsing for a shared literature class. "Do you remember this spot?" he asked as she approached. "You asked me about my favorite poet," Natalie recalled, smiling. "And I said Emily Dickinson. And I quoted her terribly, trying to impress you. It worked." Adrian took her hands. "Natalie, I've spent 10 years regretting the moment I walked away from you. I thought I was doing the right thing, following the path my parents laid out. But every success felt empty because you weren't there to share it with." Tears began streaming down Natalie's cheeks. "You've built an incredible life," Adrian continued. "You've raised an amazing daughter. You've survived and thrived despite everything. You don't need me, but I need you. I need your laughter, your strength, your kindness. I need to wake up every day knowing I get to love you and Lily." He knelt down, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. "Natalie Brooks, will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving that second chances are real?" "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Adrian, yes." New beginnings. The wedding was small and intimate, held in the garden behind Adrian's house on a warm spring afternoon. Lily served as flower girl, beaming with pride in her white dress. Mrs. Chen sat in the front row, dabbing happy tears, as Natalie walked down the aisle. She thought about the scared girl who'd stood in that train station 6 months ago, convinced her story of love had ended. She thought about all the years of struggle, the nights wondering if things would ever get easier. And she looked at Adrian, waiting for her with love and promise in his eyes, and knew that sometimes the best stories are the ones you never see coming. When they exchanged vows, Lily stood between them, holding both their hands. "I promise to love you both," Adrian said, looking at Lily, "as a family. Forever. Forever," Lily repeated seriously, making everyone laugh. That evening, as they danced under the stars with Lily spinning between them, Natalie leaned her head against Adrian's chest. "Thank you for coming back," she whispered. "Thank you for letting me," he replied. Above them, the sky was clear and full of stars, each one a promise of all the beautiful tomorrows waiting to be written. Their story had started with goodbye, paused for a decade, and now began again with forever. Some love stories end, but the truest ones just find new ways to continue. Love isn't about perfect beginnings. It's about beautiful returns. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Every Verse Story, where love always gets a second chance. Thank you.